Good morning. I'm going to talk about how I feed my sourdough. What I've been doing is I've been keeping in the fridge for the summer because my house is pretty warm and I've got 3 kids running around and life is busy and I don't always feed my sourdough daily like it needs to be done. So unless I'm going to be baking, which I know I'm going to be baking tomorrow because my mom is going to be over and I'm going to make her a loaf of bread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed a small amount of starter with a lot of flour and water. So what that's going to do is I'm only going to feed 10 to 15 grams of starter, and I'm going to feed it 100 grams of flour and water. And that means that it's going to take all night to rise and actually be at peak in the morning when it's time to start a loaf. So I want to show you how I do that. So first I'm going to get some of my discard here. So this discard's been in the fridge for a little bit. So this one's not too hoochie. So if you can see that. And I will show you what a really hoochie one is. This one's actually not that old versus I've got my extra in the back of the fridge. And you can see how hoochie that is. So these ones have been in there for months. And I only need a little bit of time when I start a new jar here. So that's why this one's not all that hoochie. So I actually discarded into this not too long ago. But I'm still going to give it a good mix before I start. So let me try and turn it this way. Give it a good mix before I start. So you can see that's nice and thick. And that's what I want. I don't want the really hoochie. I want the really hoochie one. I want this nice thick one. All right, so I'm going to switch my thing over to grams here. And make sure it's at 0 before you start. And I'm going to just add a little bit here. So that's at 11 grams, which is fine. 12 grams. Try to get it off my spoon. All right, so I'm going to put that to the side for a minute. All right, so now I'm going to add the water next. So I use spring water, bottled spring water. We actually just had a water softener put into our house this week, but I don't want to mess with my sourdough because sourdough is very temperamental. It's a drama queen of baking ingredients here. So I'm just going to keep going with the bottled water because I don't want to mess with it. All right, so that's 106, that's fine. It's kind of hard to pour this brand new bottle, so it's kind of splashing a bit more than I wanted. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the starter with the water. So you can see that gets it nice and incorporated in there. So if you've seen my past videos, I did this a little different. It's been about a year, actually it's been over a year since my first video that I posted. So I've learned a little bit since then. So put that to the side. I'm going to clear this out again. So I was at 106 for my water. And I like using, because I can get it on sale, the King Arthur flour I get from BJ's. And it's 12 pounds for like 10 bucks roughly. So that's what I get. I always use unbleached, because the bleached flour can mess with your starter. You don't want to deal with that. Unbleached doesn't have all the extra chemicals and stuff that can affect sourdough. Again, sourdough is very temperamental. You don't want to deal with that. Don't add more things to make yourself fail if you don't have to. If you have to get bleached, that's the only thing the store has. That's all that's available in your area. Then get what you gotta get. But if unbleached is an option, go with that. So I like putting this in with, I have 1/3 of a measuring cup here, and I keep that in my bag because it makes it so much easier to do this. Normally I do keep my flour in a big container. I have like a big plastic container, but this was the extra that didn't fit in the container, so that's why I got that. Now I'm going to do this. So this is like a 1-to-10 ratio because it's like 10 grams of starter to 100 grams of flour and water. A normal 1-to-1 ratio would be the same amount all across. So it'd be like 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water, and 50 grams of starter all together. That would be a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can see this gets really thick. So whoever says it's like the consistency of like pancake mix or whatever, that's probably too thin. It will get like that later once it gets going and feeding, but it does start out super thick. You can see that's like globbing. So now I'm going to put that in my jar. So I want to talk about my jar for a second here. So my jar's torpedo, and it gets a metal lid, and then I have this little fancy piece of fabric. I actually have new fabric that I'm going to replace this with. But I have the fabric, and mostly this keeps it fancy, but it also is a bug guard, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, bugs can still get in there. I have had my starter on the counter for over a year, and bugs don't get in. So I just kind of put that on top like that, so it can still exhale out. You don't need your starter to be able to breathe in. You just need the gases to be able to get out. That's why you sit the lid, and basically it's like that without the piece of fabric over top. So it's just loosely sitting on there. Alright, so I'm going to put this in here. Sorry about my dog barking. She probably hears somebody getting mail outside. Sounds like a FedEx truck or UPS or whoever outside. So I'm going to scrape all that down. And then I take my finger and just get off the spoon. You want to try and get as much of that into the jar as you can. You don't want to put extra of this down the drain, because I've heard it can have blockages. I mean, I've never had blockages, but some people have. So you just want to make sure that anything that can go in your jar does. And then I just soak this in the sink a little bit. Rinse my finger off. So I just put water in that for now, and I will deal with that later. I'm going to wipe off my discard jar so that the edge is not nasty there, and then put the lid on. That's going to go back into the fridge, and I'll rearrange the fridge nicely later. So I want to make sure that nothing is stuck on the edge here. So it did kind of go on the edge, and I just will wipe that off with the paper towel. Because my jar is nice and clean. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit clean here. So then I'm going to take my rubber band, and I'm hopefully, alright, yeah, in the camera angle here. So I'm taking that, and I'm putting it around where it is, and you could see, like, it's not even, so I'll probably come back in half an hour or so and adjust the rubber band once it kind of settles down in there. I'm going to add my lids, my fancy fabric that I'm going to replace, and then this is something that not a lot of people do, but I do. So I like to say that today is Thursday, and it is 9:45 in the morning, so I'll know Thursday at 9:45, and then I did 10 grams to 100 grams. So I'll do that so that I know how much was in there. So I'll know there's 210 grams in here. So if I want to start a loaf, I know I can use 200 grams to start my loaf. And then if you watch my fall video, you can see how I'll feed this tomorrow if I want to keep it going, where I'll just take the 10 grams that's left and I'll feed that. All right, so that is how I do this. So you could see there's this much in the jar, and then by tomorrow it'll be ready to bake with.